The stars looked different through the observation window. Captain Daejung had seen them every day for the past 3 years since waking from cryosleep, but tonight they felt strange. Wrong somehow. He stood on the bridge of the eternal horizon, watching the endless darkness with growing unease. "Captain, we have a problem." The voice belonged to Taemin, the young engineer who kept their massive colony ship running. His face on the communication screen looked pale. Daejung turned away from the window. "What kind of problem?" "The FTL drive just shut down on its own. We dropped back into normal space." Taemin's fingers moved quickly across his console. "I didn't do anything. The system just stopped." That explained the strange feeling. They were supposed to be traveling faster than light, racing toward their new home world. They had been traveling for 127 years, though most of that time the 50,000 colonists slept in their cryopods. Only the crew rotated through shifts, spending 3 years awake before sleeping again. "Can you fix it?" Daejung asked. Taemin shook his head. "I don't know what's wrong yet." "Give me an hour." But they didn't have an hour. The ship's sensors started screaming warnings. Daejung's second officer, a woman named Yoonji, who represented the civilian colonists, rushed onto the bridge. "What's happening?" she demanded. "Ships," Daejung said quietly, reading the sensor data. "Lots of them. Coming toward us fast." The ships appeared on the main screen moments later. They were like nothing humans had ever built. Sleek and dark, shaped like curved blades, they moved with perfect precision. 20 of them surrounded the eternal horizon in a formation that looked almost like art. "Are they aliens?" Yoonji whispered. Before Daejung could answer, every screen on the bridge flickered. An image appeared. The creature looking at them was tall and thin, with scaled skin that shimmered between green and blue. Its eyes were large and golden, and when it opened its mouth, Daejung saw rows of sharp teeth. "Primitive vessel," the creature said. The words came through perfectly translated, though Daejung had no idea how. "You have entered restricted space belonging to the Vrelian Dominion. Identify yourselves immediately." Daejung stepped forward, trying to look confident. "I am Captain Daejung of the human colony ship Eternal Horizon. We mean no harm. Our navigation system malfunctioned. We didn't know this space was claimed." The alien tilted its head, studying him. "Human. That species was surveyed 400 cycles ago. You were classified as primitive. Category 4. No space travel capability. No unified government. High aggression levels." The alien's eyes narrowed. "How do you have a faster-than-light vessel?" "We built it," Daejung said simply. The alien was silent for a long moment. "Impossible. Species do not advance from Category 4 to FTL capability in 400 cycles. It requires at least 2,000 cycles." "Well, we did it anyway," Yoonji said, stepping beside Daejung. "And now we'd like to continue our journey. If you'll just point us toward the edge of your territory." "Negative." The alien's voice became harder. "Unknown primitive species with FTL technology represent a potential threat. You will power down all systems and prepare for boarding. Resistance will result in destruction." The screen went dark. Daejung and Unji looked at each other. Around them, the bridge crew sat frozen in shock. They had spent over a century traveling through space, searching for a new world. Never once had they encountered another intelligent species. Now, within minutes of first contact, they were being treated like criminals. "What do we do?" Unji asked quietly. Daejung thought fast. He had been a soldier before becoming a ship captain. He had fought in Earth's resource wars, back when humans were killing each other over water and land. He knew how to fight against enemies with better weapons and more soldiers. You didn't meet force with force. You used surprise. You used the environment. You made them underestimate you. "Get Dr. Hana up here," he said. "She's our xenobiology expert. I want to know everything she can tell me about these aliens from just looking at them." He turned to his tactical officer. "How long before they board us?" "Their ships are moving into docking positions. Maybe 20 minutes. "Taemin," Daejung spoke into the communication system. "Forget about fixing the FTL drive. I need you to get the Eternal Horizon ready for a fight." "A fight?" Taemin's voice cracked. "Captain, we're a colony ship. We have some basic defensive weapons, but nothing that can fight 20 warships." "I know. That's why we're not going to fight their ships. We're going to make them come to us." Daejung pulled up the ship's internal map. The Eternal Horizon was huge, built to carry 50,000 people. It had hundreds of corridors, thousands of rooms, multiple decks stacked on top of each other. This is our home. We know every meter of it. They don't. Dr. Hana arrived on the bridge, still pulling on her jacket. She was in her 40s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Someone want to tell me why I was woken up early? Daejung pointed at the screen, where the alien ships were visible. We just made first contact. They want to board us and either enslave or kill us. What can you tell me about them? Hana studied the recording of the alien commander. Reptilian features, scales for temperature regulation. Those eyes suggest they can see well in low light. The way they move is very controlled, very precise. They're probably cold-blooded, which means they think methodically. Not much room for emotion or improvisation. She looked at Daejung. Why are you smiling? Because humans are very good at improvisation, Daejung said. Yoonji, wake up the security teams. All of them. Then start organizing the civilians. Anyone who can hold a weapon gets one. Anyone who can't helps with defense preparations. We're really doing this? Yoonji looked scared but determined. We don't have a choice, Daejung said. These aliens think we're primitive. They think we'll just surrender because they have bigger ships. They surveyed us 400 years ago and decided we weren't worth worrying about. He looked around at his crew, at these humans who had crossed the galaxy looking for a new home. Let's show them how much we've changed. The next 20 minutes passed in a blur. Daejung divided his security teams throughout the ship, positioning them in areas where the aliens would have to enter. Taemin rigged emergency bulkheads to seal on command, turning sections of the ship into traps. Yoonji distributed weapons from the ship's armory, guns designed for defense against pirates or mutiny, never imagining they'd be used against aliens. Dr. Hana worked with the medical team preparing for casualties. She also studied everything they knew about the alien ships, looking for weaknesses. When the aliens finally docked, it was like watching a machine operate. Their boarding craft attached to 6 different points on the Eternal Horizon's hull. Cutting torches burned through the outer doors, and then they came inside. The first group of aliens moved through the corridors with confident precision. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. Their scaled skin looked almost beautiful under the ship's lights. They expected humans to be cowering in fear, ready to surrender. Instead, they walked into prepared positions. Humans hiding behind corners and barricades. Humans who had spent 3 years awake on this voyage, learning every detail of their home. The first shots fired echoed through the Eternal Horizon. The aliens' energy weapons were powerful, burning through metal. But human bullets were simple and effective. The aliens had shields that could stop energy, but physical rounds punched through. The first alien fell, surprise clear in its golden eyes. Then another. Then 3 more. Daejung watched from the bridge, coordinating his teams through communication devices. He felt no joy in the violence, only necessity. These aliens had given them no choice. They had assumed humans would be easy prey. Now they were learning different. Captain, Taemin's voice came through, excited. I'm reading power fluctuations in their ships. I think their docking with us is draining their systems more than they expected. Our ship's much bigger than they anticipated. An idea formed in Daejung's mind. Dangerous. Possibly insane. But possibly their only chance. Taemin, can you overload Reactor 3? The auxiliary reactor? Yes, but why would I? Taemin stopped. Oh, you want to create an electromagnetic pulse. Will it work? It'll definitely create a pulse. Whether it affects their ships depends on their shielding. But Captain, if I do this, we'll lose power to 1/3 of our own systems. Our systems are hardened against electromagnetic interference, Daejung said. We built this ship to survive anything. I'm betting they didn't expect to need that kind of protection. He could hear the fighting continuing throughout the ship. His people were holding but barely. The aliens were better trained, better armed. Eventually, the humans would be overwhelmed unless they changed the game entirely. Do it, Daejung ordered. Overload the reactor. Everyone else brace for EMP and power loss. Throughout the ship, humans grabbed onto anything solid. They closed their eyes and waited. The reactor overloaded, in a flash of energy that raced through the Eternal Horizon's hull and exploded. Outward in an invisible wave. 3 of the alien ships went dark instantly. Their precise formations faltered as they lost power and drifted. Inside the Eternal Horizon, lights flickered and died in some sections, but the backup systems kicked in quickly. The captured alien ship smelled wrong. Taemin wrinkled his nose as he climbed through the darkened corridors, his helmet light cutting through the shadows. Everything was too smooth, too perfect. The walls curved in ways that made no sense to human eyes, and the temperature was cold enough to see his breath. "This is incredible," Bora whispered beside him. She was another engineer, brought along to help analyze the alien technology. "Look at this conduit system. It's so efficient." "It's also dead," Taemin reminded her. "The EMP fried everything. We need to figure out how to get power back online without blowing ourselves up." 3 weeks had passed since the first battle. 3 weeks of hiding in a nearby nebula while the humans studied their prizes. They had managed to capture one alien ship intact when the EMP knocked it out. The other 2 had been recovered by the Vrelian fleet before humans could reach them. The fighting inside the Eternal Horizon had been brutal. 73 humans died before the aliens finally retreated, shocked by the resistance. But the humans had killed or captured over 200 aliens. The Vrelians hadn't expected that. They hadn't expected humans to fight back at all. Now Captain Daejung had the ship on silent running, hiding in the dense gas and dust of the nebula. The Vrelians were hunting them. Their communications, intercepted and translated by Dr. Hana's team, made that clear. The Dominion was furious. No primitive species had ever resisted them before. Taemin found what he was looking for in the ship's engineering section. The alien reactor was smaller than anything humans used, but the power readings suggested it was far more efficient. He pulled out his scanner and started taking readings. "Bora, look at this," he said. "The power generation is amazing, but the distribution system is incredibly rigid. Everything flows through these main conduits in a specific pattern. There's no redundancy at all." Bora studied her own scanner. "That's insane. If you damage one conduit, the whole system collapses. Why would they design it this way?" "Because it works perfectly when nothing goes wrong," Taemin said, understanding dawning. "They've optimized everything for maximum efficiency. They probably haven't had a real war in centuries, maybe longer." "What do humans optimize for?" Bora asked. Taemin smiled. "Survival. We build things that keep working even when they're broken. Redundancy, backup systems, manual overrides. It's not elegant, but it's hard to kill." He took more readings, his mind racing. The alien technology was more advanced, yes, but it was also fragile in a way human technology wasn't. Humans had learned to build things that could take damage and keep functioning. They had learned that lesson through countless wars and disasters. Back on the Eternal Horizon, Dr. Hana was learning other lessons. She sat across from a captured Vrelian officer, studying the alien's body language. The creature's scales had lost some of their shimmer in captivity, turning a duller green. "You have questions," the alien said. Its voice was flat, emotionless. "Ask them. Why did you attack us?" Hana asked. "We weren't threatening you. You exist," the alien replied. "Unknown species with faster-than-light capability represent potential threats to the Dominion's stability. Standard protocol requires assessment and either integration or elimination. Integration means slavery. Slavery is a primitive concept. Integration means accepting your proper place in the Dominion hierarchy. All species have their place. Humans would have been classified based on your abilities and assigned appropriate duties." Hana leaned forward. "How many species are part of your Dominion?" The alien tilted its head. 43 species currently serve the Dominion. All accepted integration peacefully after we demonstrated our superiority." "Peacefully," Hana repeated. "Or did they surrender because they were afraid?" For the first time, something like emotion crossed the alien's face. Confusion. "There is no difference. Recognition of superior force is logical. Resistance is illogical. That is why your species confuses us." The golden eyes studied her carefully. "Why do you fight?" "You cannot win. Our forces number in the millions. Your single ship carries 50,000. Logic demands surrender." "Logic isn't everything," Hana said quietly. "Humans have a saying, 'Give me liberty or give me death.' We'd rather die free than live as slaves, no matter how nicely you dress it up." The alien was silent for a long moment. "This is irrational. Maybe. But it's who we are." On the bridge, Captain Daejung was receiving bad news. His tactical officer had intercepted more Vrelian communications. A battle group was being assembled specifically to hunt down and destroy the Eternal Horizon. Not to capture, not to integrate. To make an example of humanity. "They're sending the equivalent of 15 of their warships," the officer reported, "along with support vessels and fighters. They'll be here in approximately 6 days." Yoonji, standing beside Daejung, paled. We can't fight that many. We barely survived 20 ships the first time, and we had surprise on our side. Then we need to surprise them again, Daejung said. He pulled up a map of the nebula. We know this space now. We've been hiding here for 3 weeks, mapping every gas pocket and radiation source. They don't know it at all. You want to ambush them? In their own territory? No. Daejung's finger traced a path through the nebula. I want to make them think we're running, then ambush them. Our sensors are better than theirs in this nebula. The gas interferes with their scanning technology, but our radar and lidar work fine. We can see them. They can't see us, Yoonji studied the map. It's risky. If it fails, we all die. If we run, they'll hunt us forever. If we surrender, we lose everything that makes us human. Daejung looked at her. We need to vote. Get the civilian council together. Every person on this ship should have a say in what happens next. 2 hours later, the vote was recorded. Out of 50,000 colonists, 47,000 voted to fight. 3,000 voted to surrender. It was an overwhelming majority, but Daejung felt the weight of those 3,000 votes. 3,000 people who wanted to live, even as slaves. He couldn't blame them, but the majority had spoken. Humanity would fight. Taemin and Bora worked around the clock preparing their trap. They modified the captured Vrelian ship, stripping out everything unnecessary and filling it with every explosive they could manufacture. They rigged the reactor to overload on command, turning the entire vessel into a massive bomb. This is insane, Bora said as they worked. We're using an alien spaceship as a weapon. Humans have been improvising weapons since we picked up the first rocks, Taemin replied, carefully wiring another charge. This is just a really big rock. They also modified the Eternal Horizon sensor arrays, boosting their power and range. Daejung wanted to see the enemy coming from as far away as possible, and they prepared their defensive systems, limited as they were. The colony ship had never been meant for war, but humans were good at making do with what they had. When the Vrelian battle group arrived, it came in with confident precision. 15 warships, each twice the size of human destroyers, 3 support vessels, and dozens of smaller fighters. They spread out in a search pattern, hunting for the human colony ship. On the Eternal Horizon's bridge, Daejung watched them come. His hands were steady, but his heart raced. So many ships, so much firepower. One mistake and 50,000 humans would die. They're scanning the nebula, his tactical officer reported. Their sensors are struggling with the interference. They're moving slowly, methodically. Good, Daejung said. Let them think we're running scared. Taemin, is our present ready? In the captured alien ship, now floating silently in a dense pocket of the nebula, Taemin checked his remote connections one last time. Ready, Captain. Just get them close enough. The Vrelian fleet moved deeper into the nebula, following false sensor readings that the humans had carefully planted. They were hunting, confident in their superiority, expecting to find a terrified colony ship trying desperately to hide. Instead, they found the captured Vrelian vessel. The ship appeared on their sensors suddenly, floating dead in space. The Vrelian commander, a different alien than the one who had first attacked them, saw an opportunity. A chance to recover lost technology and perhaps learn how the humans had defeated it. Approach cautiously, the commander ordered. Scan for traps, but the scan showed nothing. Just a dead ship, powerless and abandoned. Exactly what the Vrelians expected to find. They moved 3 of their warships closer, preparing to tow the vessel back to their space. Now, Daejung whispered. Taemin triggered the overload. The explosion was massive. The alien reactor, designed for efficiency, not safety, detonated with the force of a small sun. The 3 nearest Vrelian warships were destroyed instantly. 3 more were heavily damaged, their perfect hulls cracked and bleeding atmosphere. In the confusion, the Eternal Horizon emerged from hiding, its weapons firing. The colony ship's guns were nothing compared to Vrelian weapons, but they didn't need to be. They targeted the damaged ships, the ones already bleeding and broken. They finished what the explosion had started. The Vrelian fighters scrambled to respond, but the nebula's gases made their targeting systems unreliable. They fired blindly into the clouds, hitting nothing. Human pilots, trained in atmospheric flight and used to flying with limited visibility, operated with deadly precision. The message came 3 days after the second battle. It wasn't from the Vrelians. Dr. Hana sat in her lab, staring at the translated text on her screen. She had run it through their systems 5 times, certain there must be an error. But the message was clear. "We heard what you did. We want to help." She brought it to Captain Daejung immediately. He read it twice, his expression unreadable. "It could be a trap," Yoonji said. She had been on the bridge when Hana arrived, reviewing damage reports. The Eternal Horizon needed repairs and they were running low on supplies. "It could be," Daejung agreed. "But if it's real, we need allies. We can't keep fighting the Dominion alone forever." "The message says they're Kelhari," Hana explained, pulling up what little information they had stolen from Vrelian databases. Bird-like species. They've been part of the Dominion for 80 years. The Vrelians use them as scouts and pilots because they have excellent spatial awareness. "Why would they help us?" Yoonji asked. "If they've been integrated for 80 years, they must be loyal to the Dominion." Hana shook her head. "Integrated doesn't mean loyal. It means conquered." The Vrelians surveyed them, demonstrated superiority, and the Kelhari surrendered rather than be destroyed. "But that doesn't mean they're happy about it." Daejung made his decision. "Send a response. We'll meet them, but on our terms. Neutral location. Both sides bring minimal forces, and we keep weapons ready just in case." The meeting took place 5 days later on a small moon at the edge of the nebula. The Eternal Horizon hung in orbit, weapons powered but not locked on target. A small Kelhari shuttle descended to the moon's surface, where Daejung waited with a security team. The aliens that emerged from the shuttle were beautiful. They stood on 2 legs like humans, but their bodies were covered in feathers that shifted between blue and silver. Their faces were angular with large eyes and small beaks. Wings folded against their backs, vestigial but still present. The leader stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice was musical like wind chimes. "I am Kiha," she said through a translation device. "I speak for the Kelhari resistance. We have watched your battles with great interest." "Resistance?" Daejung asked. "I thought your people surrendered 80 years ago." "We did. Our leaders saw the Vrelian fleet and calculated that fighting was pointless. We would be destroyed, so we surrendered and accepted integration." Kiha's feathers darkened with emotion. "But surrender is not acceptance. For 80 years we have served the Dominion. We pilot their ships, scout their territories, and pretend to be grateful for the opportunity. And for 80 years we have waited for a chance to be free." Another Kelhari stepped forward. "I am Byung-ho. I was a ship captain before integration. Now I fly Vrelian scouts, but I never forgot what it was like to fly for my own people." Daejung studied them carefully. "Why contact us? What can we offer you that the Dominion can't?" "Hope," Kiha said simply. "In 80 years, no species has resisted the Vrelians. Everyone surrenders. Everyone accepts their place. But you fought. You won, twice. You showed the galaxy that the Dominion can be beaten." Her large eyes focused on Daejung with fierce intensity. "You showed us that freedom is still possible." A third alien stepped forward, this one covered in feathers of darker blue. "I am Sumi. I lead the Kelhari engineering teams that maintain Dominion ships. I can teach your people how their technology works. I can show you their weaknesses." "And what do you want in return?" Yoonji asked, suspicious. "When you win," Kiha said, "we want our freedom. We want to fly our own ships again. To govern ourselves. To live without Vrelian masters." "When we win," Daejung repeated. "Not if. If we believed you could lose, we would not be here," Kiha replied. "The Vrelians believe in logic and overwhelming force, but you have shown that determination and cleverness can overcome both. That is something worth fighting for." The meeting lasted 3 hours. By the end, the humans and Kelhari had the beginning of an alliance. The Kelhari would provide intelligence about Dominion forces, tactics, and technology. They would use their positions within the Dominion to sabotage operations and spread confusion. And when the time was right, they would join the humans in open rebellion. In return, the humans would teach the Kelhari how to fight, not the precise methodical warfare of the Dominion, but the desperate improvised combat that humans excelled at. 2 weeks later, another message arrived. This time from the Tolan, an aquatic species that lived in the oceans of several Dominion worlds. They too had heard about the human victories. They too wanted freedom. "It's spreading," Dr. Hana told Daejung as they reviewed the message. "News of our resistance is reaching the subjugated species. They're starting to believe they can fight back." "That's dangerous," Daejung said. "If the Vrelians realize what's happening, they'll crack down hard on everyone. People will die. People are already dying. They're just dying slowly, living as slaves. Hana looked at him. We didn't ask to be symbols of resistance. But that's what we've become. The question is what we do about it. Daijun called a council meeting. Yunji represented the civilians. Taemin spoke for the engineers. Dr. Hana brought her scientific perspective. Commander Gisu represented the military personnel, and a new voice joined them. A woman named Subin who had been a diplomat on Earth before joining the colony mission. We have a choice, Daijun explained. We can focus on our own survival, try to escape Dominion space and complete our original mission. Or we can turn this into something bigger, a real resistance movement. If we run, the Vrelians will hunt us forever, Gisu said. They've classified us as a galactic threat. They'll never stop until we're destroyed. And if we stay and fight, we might inspire a galaxy-wide rebellion, Subin added. But we might also get everyone killed. The Dominion has been in power for who knows how long. They have resources we can't match. Taemin leaned forward. I've been studying the Vrelian technology with Sumi's help. Their power is based on efficiency and fear. They don't actually have the resources to fight multiple wars at once. If enough species rebel simultaneously, the Dominion would collapse. That's a big if, Yunji said. How many species would need to rebel? And how do we coordinate something like that? We start small, Subin suggested. We build the alliance, share intelligence, train together, and when we're ready, we strike at something big. Something that shows the entire galaxy that the Dominion can be beaten. Hana pulled up a map of Dominion space. According to the Kelhari, there's a major communications hub here. She pointed to a system near the edge of Dominion territory. It's not heavily defended because it's considered safe. But if we could capture it, we could broadcast our message across 200 Dominion systems. A message saying what? Hyunji asked. That freedom is possible, Daejung said quietly. That species don't have to accept slavery just because the Dominion says so. That if we stand together, we can win. The council voted. The decision was unanimous. The humans would stay and fight. They would build an alliance. They would start a rebellion. The next 3 months were chaos. The alliance grew to include 7 species, all of them subjugated by the Dominion, all of them eager for freedom. The Kelhari brought their piloting skills. The Tolan provided intelligence from their aquatic worlds. A species called the Makan, small and quick, offered to act as spies and saboteurs. Taemin and Sumi worked together, teaching alien engineers human methodology. They showed them redundancy and improvisation. They taught them that technology didn't need to be perfect. It just needed to work. Commander Gisu trained mixed squadrons of pilots. Kelhari flew alongside humans, learning each other's tactics and styles. It was messy and chaotic, but it worked. The Kelhari's natural spatial awareness combined with human aggression and creativity made them formidable. Subin became the alliance's diplomat, negotiating between species with different needs and cultures. She proved to be brilliant at finding common ground, at building trust between people who had never imagined working together, and Dr. Hana documented everything. She recorded the alliance's formation, the training sessions, the growing sense of hope. She knew that regardless of what happened, this moment needed to be remembered. The moment when the galaxy said no to tyranny. The attack on the communications hub was planned for 3 months. Every detail was analyzed, every contingency prepared for. The alliance couldn't afford to fail. This would be their debut, their announcement to the galaxy that a new force had emerged. The assault force consisted of the Eternal Horizon, 12 Kelhari ships and 3 Tolan submarines converted for space combat. It wasn't much against the hub's defenses, but they had surprise on their side. They arrived in the system using old Vrelian navigation codes provided by the Kelhari. The hub's automated defenses recognized them as friendly and didn't fire. By the time the Vrelian garrison realized something was wrong, the Alliance forces were already engaging. The battle was fierce but short. The garrison fought well, but they were outnumbered and caught off guard. Gisu's mixed squadrons tore through the defensive fighters. The Tolan ships, with their unique design, attacked from unexpected angles. And the Eternal Horizon, now armed with captured Vrelian weapons, provided devastating fire support. Within 2 hours, the communications hub was theirs. The Vrelian Dominion was fracturing. 6 months after Unji's broadcast, 15 species had joined the Free People's Coalition. Rebellions flared across Dominion space like stars being born, and the Vrelians, who had ruled through fear and overwhelming force for centuries discovered that fear could break. But they were not giving up without a fight. Intelligence reports indicate major fleet movements, Dr. Hanna said during the morning briefing. The coalition leadership now met daily in a converted cargo bay on the eternal horizon. Around the table sat humans and aliens unified by their desire for freedom. Kiha, the Kelhari resistance leader, spread her feathers in agitation. They're pulling back from the outer territories, consolidating around the core worlds. Abandoning their conquests? Daejung asked. Protecting their home, Byung-ho replied. He was now a squadron commander in the coalition forces. They're preparing for a final defense. Taemin pulled up a star map. If they're consolidating, that gives us control of dozens of systems they've abandoned. But it also means their remaining forces are concentrated and coordinated. There's something else, Gisu said quietly. She had been coordinating intelligence gathering with the Tolan and Makan operatives. We've intercepted communications about a weapon, something called the sterilization array. The room went silent. What does it do? Yunji asked. From what we can translate, it's designed to eliminate biological life on planetary surfaces. They developed it centuries ago as a deterrent against rebellion. It was never used because no one rebelled. Gisu's expression was grim. Until now. Subin, the human diplomat, leaned forward. Where is this weapon? The Vrelian homeworld. They're preparing to deploy it against coalition worlds if we don't surrender. Gisu pulled up more intercepted data. They're targeting human colony sites, Kelhari nest worlds, and Tolan ocean planets. If we don't stop them, billions will die. Daejung felt cold. The Vrelians were desperate enough to commit genocide. They would rather destroy entire worlds than lose their empire. How long do we have? He asked. 3 weeks. Maybe less. Okay, weapon requires massive power generation, and they're redirecting resources to charge it. Hanna studied the data carefully. Once it's fully powered, they can fire it repeatedly. They could sterilize 20 worlds before we could stop them. Then we attack the Vrelian homeworld, Daejung said. We stop the weapon before they can use it. That's insane, Kiha said, but there was respect in her voice. The Vrelian home system is the most heavily defended location in the Dominion. They have hundreds of ships, defense stations, and ground batteries. We have maybe 80 ships total across the entire coalition. Then we'll need to be clever, Daejung replied. We can't match their firepower, but we can surprise them. They expect us to defend our worlds. They won't expect us to attack theirs. Sumin, the Kelhari engineer who had been working with the humans, stood up. I have been studying human military history. You have a saying. The best defense is a good offense. The Vrelians don't think this way. They've never had to. We're not just fighting for our freedom anymore, Yunji said softly. We're fighting for survival. If we don't stop this weapon, everything we've built dies. The vote was quick and unanimous. The coalition would attack the Vrelian homeworld. It would be the largest military operation in any of their histories, and it might be their last. The preparation took 3 weeks. Every available ship was gathered. Pilots trained together, running simulations of the attack. Engineers worked around the clock, maintaining vessels and improvising new weapons. The coalition had grown, but it was still small compared to the Dominion's might. On the night before the attack, Daejung walked through the Eternal Horizons corridors. He passed humans and aliens working together, sharing stories and fears. In the recreation area, Kelhari and humans played a game with rules that neither species fully understood, but both enjoyed. In the medical bay, Dr. Hanna trained Tolan medics in human anatomy while learning about Tolan biology. He found Taemin in the engineering section, making final checks on the ship's systems. How are we looking? Daejung asked. Honestly, we're held together with hope and improvisation. Taemin smiled tiredly. But that's how humanity has always operated. We'll hold together long enough. Long enough for what? Long enough to win. Or long enough to make them remember us. Taemin's smile faded. Captain, I've been thinking. If we lose tomorrow, if the weapon fires and destroys our worlds, will it have been worth it? All this fighting? Daejung thought carefully before answering. Yes, Because we chose to fight. We could have surrendered, accepted slavery, lived as the Dominion wanted us to live. Instead, we said no. We showed the galaxy that freedom matters more than survival. That's worth dying for. I hope we don't have to die for it, Taman said quietly. So do I. The Coalition fleet assembled at the edge of Vrelian space. 80 ships from 15 species, each one carrying crews who believed in the impossible. The Eternal Horizon led the formation, scarred from months of battle but still flying. All ships report ready, Gisu said from the tactical station. She would be coordinating the fighter squadrons during the attack. Intelligence updates? Daejung asked. Hana pulled up the latest reports. The Vrelian homeworld is defended by approximately 200 warships. The sterilization array is powered and ready to fire. They're waiting for our response to their ultimatum. That ultimatum had arrived 2 days ago. Surrender immediately or watch your worlds die. The Coalition's response was this fleet, jumping into Vrelian space with weapons armed. All ships, this is Captain Daejung. He broadcast across the Coalition channels. We are about to attack the heart of the Dominion. We are outnumbered. We are outgunned. By every logical calculation, we should lose. But logic has never stopped humanity before, and it won't stop us now. Fight for your homes. Fight for your families. Fight for the right to live free. Today, we show the Vrelians what happens when they threaten everything we love. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. They emerged in the Vrelian home system in a coordinated strike. The Eternal Horizon and the larger ships appeared near the defense stations. The fighter squadrons materialized inside the orbital perimeter. And the Tolan ships, with their unique diving capability, appeared directly above the planet's atmosphere. The Vrelian defenders were caught off guard. They had been preparing to fire the sterilization array, not defending against an attack. But they recovered quickly, their training and discipline taking over. The battle was chaos, hundreds of ships fighting in close quarters, explosions lighting up the space around the planet. The Coalition ships used every trick they had learned. They coordinated attacks, covered each other, and fought with desperate courage. Gisu led the fighter squadrons through the defensive perimeter. Kelhari and human pilots flew in mixed formations, their different styles complementing each other. The Kelhari's spatial awareness helped them avoid fire, while human aggression pushed through weak points. Strike team is away, she reported. A small group of ships, carrying Taimin and a team of engineers, were racing toward the planet's surface. Their mission was to destroy the sterilization array before it could fire. But the Vrelians were fighting back hard. They had centuries of military experience, and their weapons were devastating. Coalition ships were dying, torn apart by energy weapons and missiles. The carefully planned attack was dissolving into desperate combat. We're losing too many ships, Yunji said, watching the casualty reports climb. She was on the bridge, having insisted on being present for the battle. We can't sustain these losses. We don't need to sustain them, Daejung replied. We just need to last long enough for Taimin to complete his mission. On the planet's surface, Taimin and his team were fighting their own battle. They had landed near the sterilization array, a massive installation that hummed with barely contained energy. Vrelian ground forces were responding, but the team had brought allies. Makan saboteurs and Tolan warriors fought alongside human soldiers, each species contributing their unique abilities. We need to overload the power core, Sumi said. Her feathers darkened with stress. She was studying the array's systems, looking for a weakness. But the safeties are more sophisticated than anything we've seen before. Can you bypass them? Taman asked, firing his weapon at approaching Vrelian soldiers. Not in time. The weapon is minutes from firing. Taman made a decision. Then we don't bypass them. We give the weapon exactly what it wants. Full power, all at once, more than it can handle. That will cause a catastrophic overload. The explosion will destroy everything within kilometers. How long do we need to get clear? Sumi calculated quickly. 2 minutes maybe. Then let's move fast. The team worked frantically, rerouting power systems and removing safety limiters. The array's energy readings climbed higher and higher. Alarms screamed warnings that no one was listening to anymore. "It's overloading," Sumi said. "We need to go, now." They ran for their ships, fighting through Vrelian defenders. Tai Min was the last one out, making sure everyone else escaped first. He dove into the shuttle just as the engines fired. Behind them, the sterilization array exploded. The power core detonated with the force of a tactical nuclear weapon, sending a shockwave racing across the installation. The negotiations took place on a neutral station at the edge of former Dominion space. The station had been built centuries ago as a trading post, abandoned when the Vrelians stopped trading and started conquering. Now it served as the birthplace of a new galactic order. Dr. Hana led the coalition delegation. She had documented the entire war, understood the grievances of every species involved, and had the respect of both humans and aliens. Beside her sat Subin, whose diplomatic skills had held the coalition together through the darkest days. Representatives from all 15 coalition species filled the other seats, each one carrying the hopes of their people. Across the table sat the Vrelian delegation. Vortan, the High Council leader, looked even older than he had during their first communication. Beside him were military commanders, administrators, and scholars. They looked defeated but not broken. Vrelians, Hana had learned, were nothing if not practical. "Let us begin," Vortan said. His voice carried none of the arrogance that had characterized earlier Vrelian communications. "The Dominion acknowledges that continued warfare serves no purpose. We are prepared to discuss dissolution." "Dissolution," Hana repeated. "Not reformation, not restructuring. You're willing to let the Dominion end." "The Dominion was built on a simple premise," Vortan explained. "That superior force could maintain order across the galaxy. That logical species would accept their place in a hierarchy designed for maximum efficiency. This premise has proven false. If species will fight and die rather than accept integration, then integration cannot be maintained." "You say that like it's a new discovery," Kiha said, her feathers ruffled with barely contained anger. "My people surrendered 80 years ago because you threatened to destroy our worlds. We lived as your servants, pretending to be grateful while you used us. Did you never wonder if we might resent that?" "No," Vortan said simply. "We calculated that survival would outweigh pride. For most species, across most of history, this calculation proved correct. You are the exception." "We're not the exception," Hana said firmly. "We're just the first to show everyone else that fighting back was possible. Every species you conquered wanted freedom. They just didn't believe they could win it." The negotiations continued for 3 weeks. The terms were complex, covering everything from territorial boundaries to war reparations to the treatment of Vrelian civilians living on former Dominion worlds. But the core points were simple. The Vrelian Dominion would dissolve. Each subjugated species would regain independence. The Vrelians would withdraw to their core systems and remain under coalition oversight for 50 years, ensuring they couldn't rebuild their military and start conquering again. In exchange, the coalition would not pursue revenge against the Vrelian people, only against those who had committed specific war crimes. "This is more mercy than we deserve," Vortan said on the final day of negotiations. "Mercy is not the same as forgiveness," Hana replied. "We remember what you did. The species you enslaved, the cultures you destroyed, the individuals who died resisting you. We'll remember for generations. But we're not interested in genocide. We want justice, not revenge." "Justice," Vortan repeated as if tasting the word. "An interesting concept, more complex than simple hierarchy." "Welcome to the complicated galaxy," Subin said with a slight smile. "You'll get used to it." The treaty was signed on the anniversary of the first battle between humans and Vrelians. 1 year since the Eternal Horizon had dropped out of FTL travel and found itself in Dominion space. 1 year since humanity had learned they weren't alone in the universe and decided that sharing the galaxy didn't mean accepting slavery, but the wars, and was just the beginning of a longer journey. The Eternal Horizon finally reached the world it had been traveling toward for over a century. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents. It had been surveyed by automated probes decades ago and deemed perfect for human colonization. The colonists, now veterans of a galactic war, began the work of building a settlement. They named the planet Resilience. Captain Daijong stood on the planet's surface, feeling real wind for the first time in years. Around him, construction crews were assembling the first permanent buildings. Human engineers worked alongside Kelhari and Tolan advisors, sharing knowledge and techniques. Children played in the grass, human and alien kids chasing each other without concern for species differences. "It's beautiful," Yunji said, joining him. She had been elected as the planet's first governor, a role she accepted with the same determination she had shown during the war. "After everything we went through, it's strange to finally be here. We lost so many people getting here," Daejung said quietly. "Sometimes I wonder if they would think the cost was worth it. I think they'd be proud." Yunji gestured at the settlement. "We didn't just survive. We changed the galaxy. 43 species are free because we refused to surrender. That's a legacy worth dying for." Daejung had resigned his military commission after the treaty was signed. He served now as an advisor to the new Galactic Union Defense Force, training the next generation of officers. But his fighting days were over. He had seen enough war to last several lifetimes. Taemin and Bora had established the first interspecies engineering academy on a space station near the Kellari homeworld. They taught students from dozens of species, combining different technological philosophies and approaches. Vrelian efficiency met human redundancy. Kelhari intuition combined with Tolan precision. The academy was producing engineers who could think in ways no single species had imagined. "The key is not assuming there's only one right way to solve a problem," Taemin explained to a class of mixed-species students. "Humans build things that can survive damage. Vrelians build things that work perfectly in controlled conditions. Both approaches have value. The question is knowing when to use which methodology." A young Kelhari student raised a wing. "But Professor Taemin, doesn't combining approaches make things more complicated?" "Yes," Taemin admitted. "But the galaxy is complicated. Technology that only works in perfect conditions fails when conditions become imperfect. And conditions are always imperfect," Bora added. "We learned that during the war. Our human ships were crude compared to Vrelian vessels. But our ships kept working even when damaged. Their ships were more powerful but more fragile. In the end, resilience beat perfection." Dr. Hana had become the first human ambassador to the Galactic Union. The Union was still forming, still finding its structure and purpose. 50 species were now members, including the Vrelians. It was messy and chaotic, with constant debates and disagreements. Hana loved every minute of it. "Democracy is inefficient," a Vrelian delegate complained during one session. "Decisions take too long. Too many voices complicate everything." "That's the point," Hana replied. "Every voice matters. Every species has a say in their own future. It's not efficient, but it's fair. And fairness is more important than efficiency." She had also completed her chronicle of the war. The book, titled The Human Factor, How One Species Changed the Galaxy, became required reading across Union space. It told the story of the Eternal Horizons journey, the battles fought and the alliances formed. But more importantly, it told the story of what happened when ordinary people decided their freedom was worth fighting for. "Will humans always be fighters?" a young Tolan asked her during a book signing. "I hope not," Hana said honestly. "We didn't come to the stars to fight. We came to explore, to learn, to find new homes. The fighting was forced on us. Now that it's over, I hope we can return to our original mission." "But you taught the galaxy how to resist tyranny," the Tolan pressed. "That's your legacy now." "Maybe," Hana acknowledged. "But I prefer to think our legacy is showing that determination and hope can overcome fear. The fighting was necessary, but it's the hope that matters." Commander Gisu had remained in military service, commanding a wing of the new Union Defense Fleet. Her pilots came from 20 different species, and she trained them all in the tactics that had won the war: flexibility, creativity, and the willingness to try unconventional approaches. "The Dominion lost because they couldn't adapt," she told her pilots during a training exercise. "They had superior technology and numbers, but they fought the same way for centuries. When we showed them something new, they couldn't respond. Learn from that. Never stop innovating. Never stop thinking of new approaches. The moment you believe you know everything is the moment you become vulnerable." Her star student was a young human pilot named Jae-won. He had been just a teenager when the war started, losing his parents in the first battle. Now he was one of the fleet's best pilots, combining human aggression with lessons learned from a dozen other species. "Why do you still fly?" Gisu asked him after one particularly impressive training run. "Because someone needs to make sure we stay ready," Jae-won replied. The Vrelian Dominion fell, but that doesn't mean the galaxy is safe. There might be other threats out there, other species that need to learn what we learned. And what did we learn? That freedom is worth defending. That different species can work together. That the underdog can win if they're clever enough. J1 smiled. And that humans are really good at winning when everyone says we can't.